We are live, Chair.
All right, thank you. I'll now call to order then the November 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Nevada Sentencing Commission. Good morning. It's good to see everybody again so soon. And welcome to those who are viewing the meeting on the Department of Sentencing Policy's YouTube channel. This is our third meeting of the 2023-2025 meeting cycle, and I'll now ask Director Powers to take the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Bays. Dr. Bradley. Ms. Crawford. Chairman Jericho.
Here.
Director Zarenda. Deputy Chief Evans.
Here.
Ms. Grosnick.
Erica Roth on behalf of Ms. Grosnick.
Mr. Hazibola. DA Hicks. DA Jackson.
Present.
Deputy Director Jordan.
Present.
Mr. Kautsky. Dr. Lanterman.
Present.
Mr. McCormick.
He's here.
Sorry, present.
Ms. Murray. Mr. Ponder.
Present.
I see Ms. Murray has joined. Director Schmidt.
Yep, present.
Ms. Susan Yamas.
Present.
Judge Ager.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblyman Hibbets.
Here.
Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Krasner. Vice Chair Brady.
Present.
Chair Stiglich.
Present.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I'll now open agenda item number 2, the first period of public comment. There are 2 periods of public comment, one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end. Members of the public have 2 options for submitting public comment. First, the public may do so in writing by emailing the Department of Sentencing Policy at sentencingpolicy@ndsp.nv.gov. Public comment received in writing will be provided to the Commission and be included by reference in the minutes of the meeting. Members of the public who wish to testify may do so by telephone. Due to time constraints, public comment will be limited to 2 minutes. Any member of the public that exceeds the 2-minute limit may submit the balance of their comments in writing to the Department of Sentencing Policy. At this time, I'm going to ask staff to manage and direct those who wish to testify by telephone. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public who would like to testify by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. When it's your turn to speak, please slowly state and spell your first and last name. Caller with the last 3 digits, 556, please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. Caller with the last 3 digits, 556, please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. You may now begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE. Good morning. My name is Anne Marie Grant. I'm here on behalf of advocates for the inmates and the innocent. I just want to remind, as a reminder, at the Advisory Commission on the Administration of Justice, Ms. Brown, who will be making public comment following me, has been calling in and providing her recommendations to be considered to allow DNA to be conducted after conviction at the inmate's own expense. That recommendation was accepted and became a bill, and through the legislative process became law. There was discussion at the ACAJ, and it was established at the time that it doesn't matter what method the recommendation is received by. If the recommendation is made via public comment, it is considered heard, vetted, and the recommendation can be accepted by way of public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the last three digits, 411. Please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You have 2 minutes. Caller with the
Senator
last three
Lisa-
digits, 411. Please slowly state and spell your first last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. You may now begin.
Senator Lisa Krasner, Lisakrasner. Hi, I'm a member of the Sentencing Commission and I need the Zoom link so that I can join the meeting. I've sent 3 emails and also called Hunter Jones and left message. If someone could please send me the Zoom link to my Senate email address, I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We will do that right now. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Caller with the last three digits, 037. Please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. Caller with the last three digits, 037. Please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. You may now begin.
Tanya Brown, TONJABROWN, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. Good morning, Chair Stiglich and members of the Sentencing Commission. We would like to bring our ideas and recommendations to the Sentencing Commission under Agenda Item 8. We have for some time been wanting to get legislation created, and we believe with the most recent concerns being discussed by the members of the Nevada Pardons Board regarding NRS 213.085, it would be appropriate for us to bring our ideas and recommendations before this commission now. I want to just kind of refer to Mr. Sally Villaverde's pardons, and perhaps Chair Stiglich could discuss this under Agenda Item 8. We would like to see the following topics and discussed and possible recommendations. For decades, sentences have been imposed with life sentences without the possibility of parole, and we would ask this committee to take another look at those sentences and possibly change the sentencing based on research and evidence we now know about the male brain developing and matures at the age of 25 years old. We would like to see that if a crime is committed before the age of 21, the sentence must provide with the possibility of parole. Right now, it's under 18. If it was the first, if this was the offender's first offense, putting a cap on a life sentence of 20 years. If a person did not commit the crime that led to the victim's death but was present, should have their sentence changed from a life without to life with the possibility of parole, and is eligible for parole after 10 years, but no more than a maximum of 20 years, and also possibly removing the death penalty and providing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And it looks like we have no more people for public comment.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Hunter. And we will now close that first period of public comment. I do actually see now Senator Krasner in the flesh. So thank you very much for logging on. Sorry for any disconnect there. We'll move then on to agenda item number 3. Members of the commission have been provided copies of the minutes from the October 13th, 2023 meeting. Are there any edits, comments, or corrections? Okay. Hearing none and seeing no hands, I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the October 13th meeting.
This is John McCormick, so moved.
All right. I have a motion from Mr. McCormick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. And a second from Judge Yeager. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. We'll now open agenda item number 4, a report from our director at the Department of Sentencing Policy. The director is statutorily mandated to report to the commission on sentencing and related issues regarding the function of the department. We have her provide this report and update us on their recent activities at each regular meeting of the Nevada Sentencing Commission. And I'll now turn this time over to Director Powers.
Thank you, Chair. Georgia Powers for the record. As promised, I will try to keep this rather brief as this meeting so quickly followed the October meeting. I wanted to update you on Department Human Resources. The Management Analyst 3 position recruitment closed on Wednesday, and we will be reviewing the list of applicants and conducting interviews. We are very excited to bring this position on and increase our analysis abilities. In the same realm, I have appointed Jenna Bonacorsi as the NDSP Deputy Director. Some of you may remember her from earlier as she worked for us previously as a management analyst. She left for the private sector, but missed criminal justice and all of us so much that she is now back. We are lucky to have her data analysis experience, and you will be hearing from her later in the meeting. I recently sent out calendar invitations to set up meetings with each commissioner to talk about vision, goals, and ideas for the future, and to answer any pressing questions. The Deputy Director and I will be in Las Vegas, November 13th through 15th, and have set times in the North for November 16, 17, and 20 for these meetings. We have 15 meetings currently booked and are looking forward to these. If you did not receive the email to schedule, or you would like to set up a different time, or you just have questions regarding this, please reach out to me. That concludes my report this morning. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners.
All right, thank you, Director, for that report. Are there any questions for either Ms. Powers or her staff? All right, hearing none, we'll close this agenda item and turn then to the agenda item that brings us here, agenda item number 5. Presentation and approval of the Statement of Costs Avoided report. You received this report with your packets. Director Powers will now share the report.
Thank you, Chair. Georgia Powers for the record. The Nevada Sentencing Commission is required to measure outcomes resulting from the enactment of Assembly Bill 236 from the 2019 legislative session. This requirement includes a statement of costs avoided by December 1st of each year and a projected amount of costs avoided report by August 1st of each even-numbered year. I'm going to share the 2023 Statement of Costs Avoided report on my screen. Okay. I will walk through the report and then the Commission can discuss moving forward with any edits and/or approval. Nevada Revised Statute 176.1347 tasks the Sentencing Commission to develop a formula to calculate the amount of costs avoided by the state because of the enactment of AB 236 in 2019. The formula must include the annual projection of number of persons in facilities of the Department of Corrections in 2018 and the actual number of incarcerated persons in NDOC each year. This report is submitted to the Governor and to the Interim Finance Committee via the Director of the Legislative Counsel Bureau. The first section of the report goes over the statutory requirement. The next section is a short summary of what came out of the Advisory Commission on the Administration of Justice prior to the enactment of AB 236. The ACAJ report identified that $640 million would be avoided by 2028 if AB 236 were enacted. $470 million of this cost were the avoidance of constructing a new facility and remodeling and retrofitting of existing facilities to accommodate the increased projected population. Taking out the projected construction costs for corrections needed if the policies of AB 236 were not enacted leaves $170 million of other costs avoided from the original projections in the ACAJ report. Last year, this commission approved this revised methodology and the 2022 report, breaking down this $170 million in other costs to $21 million of costs avoided for each fiscal year if the population remains below the original projections. This gives $42 million per biennium that can be reinvested in programs and treatment that will reduce recidivism. The methodology was adopted by the Commission prior to the August 2022 projected amounts of costs avoided report and uses the 2017 JFA prison population projections, the prison population projected if AB 236 were not enacted as shown in the 2019 ACAJ final report, the projected population if AB 236 were enacted as reported, and the current JFA prison population projections, along with the actual NDOC prison population as of June 30th in each fiscal year. The table shows these numbers and allows us to look at the trends in population projections and current population. It shows that we are below those original projections if AB 236 were not enacted, which leads to avoidance of costs for correctional construction and other correctional costs. We have added this last section of the report, Reinvestment of Costs Avoided. Assembly Bill 236 in 2019 also created the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Coordinating Council within the commission. The council was created for the purpose of making grants to counties for programs and treatment that reduce recidivism of persons involved in the criminal justice system. During the last legislative session, AB 388 appropriated $3 million to fund these grants. This appropriation for grant money to curb recidivism at the local level comes from the recommendations of this commission and its mandated reporting regarding costs avoided. I will now turn the time back to the commission for discussion of any edits and approval of the report.
All right, sorry, technical. All right, Jennifer Lanterman, you have your hand up.
Yes, this is Jennifer Lanterman for the record. Director Powers, I was wondering if you can help me understand why the cost avoided is constant year over year since fiscal year 2021, when the number of prisoners avoided or the reduction in the Department of Corrections population is continuing to decrease, right? So the prisoners avoided number is increasing, which means the DOC population is decreasing. And some of those costs avoided are contingent upon the actual number of offenders. So the construction part of the budget, that's like a lump sum we're going to avoid. But the other portion of that is contingent upon the degree to which the Department of Corrections population is being reduced. So ostensibly, if the number of prisoners avoided increases, so there's variability there, there should be some variability in the costs avoided, but it's a constant year over year. So I was curious if you could explain to me why that number remains a constant.
That was how the methodology was approved by the commission when we changed the way we were looking at it. One of the reasons is, and in the box on the report, let me share again real quickly. That explains what costs avoided actually are. Mm-hmm. So they are actually hypothetical and variable. This was not real money because it was not ever budgeted and it did not exist. Part of the issue with correctional costs is that trying to determine the marginal costs is very difficult. As when you run a prison unit, you still have the same electricity costs, you still have the same generally officer costs. And so when we changed the methodology for this report, we just took the amount that the ACAJ said would be avoided and divided it by the years that existed. We have talked about changing the methodology again on this report, and when our data analysis increases our ability to look at all of those things, then we may change the way we're doing this. But at this point, this is what was approved last year by the commission. So I do understand the difficulty of that. And I don't know if maybe DOC would like to jump in here and explain the difficulty for calculating those costs. I think Deputy Director Wickham is here. Possibly.
Yes, good morning. I am here, and I can just mirror what you said. The cost of running facilities with, let's say, 50 to 75% population is basically the same as it would be to run a facility at 100%. In the long run, there would be a reduction in food costs, things like that. But ultimately, a small percentage doesn't make a difference in the overall cost.
That might be true if the fluctuation in your population was small, but we're talking about a fluctuation of 1,000 people, right? So at some point you hit a tipping point mathematically where that is not the case, because you've got a reduction in food costs, you've got a reduction of water costs, you've got a reduction of program costs, you've got, so you've got a lot of reductions across the board. So you're running a whole unit, but when you're reduced by 1,000 people, now you're running fewer units, right? You've got facilities that are not operational. So I'm just kind of curious, like the costs of void are hypothetical and variable, right? But they're not variable here. They're constant year over year, despite a reduction of 1,000 prisoners. So I think we probably really need to have a discussion about how this number is being calculated, because it's not really based on what this sounds like. It's not really based on the number of prisoners in Department of Corrections custody. There's this amount of money projected that we're going to reduce, and we're just dividing it by years. That's not based on the number of prisoners in Department of Corrections custody at all.
And again, the reduction in offenders, it's spread out across all of the prisons and facilities. So it doesn't really reflect until the long run. It's hard to project exactly what that would be. But I think our statisticians in the long run could come up with something, but spreading out 1,000 offenders across the entire state, it's hard to say, well, okay, how do you reduce staff with 10 offenders from each facility or 100 offenders from each facility? Closing the facilities, at this point, we're not closing a facility, so the electricity still has to go on, water still goes on, and it is variable, but I can't determine exactly how much. Depends on how long somebody takes a shower, but again, that's we leave that for our fiscal analysis folks to deal with.
And you are correct, because we're using the population. I do see what you're saying. As far as programming, it is actually more expensive for them at this point to house the more violent and serious offenders. And so, yes, this is a discussion that needs to be had within the commission if we want to change the methodology moving forward.
Vice Chair Brady?
Thank you, Chair Stiglich. I had some of the same questions actually that member Lanternman, Dr. Lanternman had, but one of the things that isn't clear from this is when it's just that sort of, I was coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective. When you see just the same number over year, over year, over year, it almost just looks kind of made up or like magic, when you're just sort of reading it in this report. But there are a lot of fluctuations, and I was actually wondering why it didn't decrease this year, because I know that correctional officers received pay raises. I know that there are certain things that the population, like the amount spent per inmate, varies too as to the needs of a specific inmate. Some inmates may need to be in isolation or have special medical treatment and things like that. And I don't know, maybe we can have a discussion in the future that gives us sort of a clearer picture. Like, we want to know how much we'd be saving by SB 236, but I just don't know that that's a flat number. It's almost unfair to the picture as a whole when we just have one number that doesn't seem to account for any of the complexities and cost increases that may happen year over year per inmate. So we have maybe 1,000 fewer inmates, but the costs per inmate are more expensive for a variety of reasons. Food, I thought the cost of food was going up. Actually, the cost of you know, energy is going up, that sort of thing. So that was the first comment I had that was related to Dr. Lanternman's comment. But then the other one is on the little, really a minor thing, but it's a little thing on the cost avoided. It says in the little box, it says in the middle, it says, costs avoided refer to spending that will be unnecessary because of the decreases in prison population. I just don't know how, if the word unnecessary is accurate, because like I said before, there's a lot of other, even though we might be saving because we are reducing the prison population, there may be other areas of the prison where that money needs to be spent. So I don't know if it's unnecessary per prisoner. Like you may have like maybe NDOC will increase services to people with mental health. So that may actually up the cost, that kind of thing. That's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you very much. And hopefully I'll have a little bit of indulgence since I'm the newest member of the Sentencing Commission. But I think what I bring to the table is I served on the Advisory Commission for the Administration of Justice for 10 years. And I was one of the 4 individuals in the state that led the opposition testimony to AB 236. So I do have some comments, and I'll try to actually formulate some of those into a question for Ms. Powers. But following in line with what Professor Lanterman has said, and also Christine Jones-Brady, I do have some concerns, but I wanted to make sure that there was a continuation of the record, that those figures that are in the summary that came out of that ACAJ report during the 2019 session, those are very controversial figures. When that matter went before the ACAJ for approval of that final report, the vote was very, very close. It was very divided. And so one thing that I am going to propose is that we go back to that 2019 report. One of the exhibits that was submitted by Assemblyman Yeager during his presentation before the Senate Judiciary on May 31st of 2019 was a 365-page exhibit. And part of that was the ACAJ reports and recommendations. And on page 37 of that ACAJ report, it would be page 327 out of page 365 on the exhibit that is available on the legislative website. This was the figure or the graph of the ACAJ recommendations that were projected to avert this percentage of growth, which captures this number of, if nothing happened, that the prison population would reach 15,074 inmates in 2028. And part of this was based upon what the population was in 2018, which is a requirement under that statute, which is the very beginning of the statutory requirement of this statement of costs avoided under 176-01347 as we go back to 2018. The prison population then was 13,877. What really strikes me is these are part of the arguments that the opposition brought up about not only that this was hypothetical and based upon variables, but it was pure speculation and conjecture of trying to run 10 years ahead and talk about what that prison population would be. During that session, and the push was not only by Assemblyman Yeager, but others that were proponents of this criminal justice reform that was wrapped up in AB 236, and which has now been repeated in 2021 and the 2023 session, is that there is this cost savings to the state. And a statement of cost avoided, and the way that costs avoided are defined in this report, is very much different than actual cost savings. But if we have members of the legislature that are saying that we have all of these cost savings, because we've been asking for several years if this is all about a reinvestment of these dollars into the justice system for other types of programs, where are these particular dollars? So going back to that figure 10 on page 37 of the ACAJ report that was the basis for the passage of AB 236 in 2019, I don't know if I can share the screen, but I would ask that this diagram be made a part of our record. I will try to share the screen. Can you all see that? So this is, again, this was the exhibit that was attached. If I go back one page, this is from Nellis. And you can see the highlight exhibits for Senate Judiciary for Friday, May 31st, 2019, 8 a.m. AB 236, Justice Reinvestment Presentation, Assemblyman Steve Yeager. So this was page 327 of the 365-page exhibit. So this is the x-axis, and this would be the number of inmates. And then the y-axis are the years. So the projections at the time by CJI, in order to meet this particular numbers, was that if we didn't do anything, then the prison population would be 15,074 in 2028. If we continued on the course, then we'd be, or excuse me, if without the 236, it would be 15,074. With the passage of AB 236, then it would avert that and be 1,000 different. But here's the reality. Here we are today in 2023, and our prison population as of June 30th is 10,435. It's not even captured in this x-axis. We really need to be looking at what the actual cost savings are, and there aren't any. If we look back at the total aggregate budgets for the Department of Corrections, and I believe there's at least between 10 to 20 separate budgets within the Department of Corrections. But again, these are all available on the legislative website of the approved budgets, except for the latest one. But if I go back in what the Nevada Department of Corrections budget was in 2018, it was $339,887,502. The budget increased $9,000 in fiscal year 2019 to $348 million, and I'm rounding that. It then increased $25 million to $373 million in 2020. It went up an additional $10 million in 2021 to $383 million. In 2022, an additional $10 million to $393 million. And for the 2023, the budget was $400 million. I don't know what the budget is, and I know that Mr. Wickham can respond to that as to what the budget was for 24 as well as for 25. But my point is that the budget of Department of Correction has increased over $60 million since the passage of AB 236. There are no costs that are avoided. It's costing the state more, even though our prison population has reduced by 3,442 inmates between this projection by CGI in 2018 and what our current prison population is today. So this goes beyond just hypotheticals and variables. And I think that we do, in following what Professor Lanterman has talked about, let's kind of talk about what some of these actual numbers will be, which, again, thanks for your indulgence, which gets me to some suggestions that I have, because we're still required by statute to at least approve something, or we're not going to have a sufficient amount of time to really dig down. And one of the things that was a major issue that came up for the entire decade I sat on the ACAJ is that we always dealt with speculation, conjecture, hypotheticals, variables, all of that type of stuff. And what has been great since we have had the Department of Sentencing Policy is we're getting real data. we have real information, and that's so important for us to be making the best decisions about the future of the criminal justice system, which includes what type of inmates do we envision seeing in our prison, for example, and focusing also, it's just as important to be looking at the community safety factors. But I want to make sure that any report that we do submit is at least accurate. So if we look at just that little box of what are costs avoided, and Christine Jones Brady commented on questioning about the use of the word unnecessary, and I want to be even back up from that. Go to the very first sentence. Costs avoided are costs that an entity would have expended in the future. One, I would suggest that we strike the word would, and it's either going to be may or could, and it's not would. That they would have expended. Again, how can you talk about what you would have expended based upon hypotheticals and variables, speculation and conjecture, and especially when the projections by CGI are so far off from even what had been a part of their final report. The next sentence, in the context of this report, costs avoided refer to spending that will be unnecessary because of the decrease in the prison population. I have three problems with that. That will should be a may. I also have the same concern as Christine Jones Brady about the use of the word unnecessary. But the last part of that, because of the decrease in the prison population, I don't believe that that's accurate. This definition of costs avoided goes back to the very first paragraph of the summary. This is all based upon numbers that were projected by the CJI that made it into their final report that was submitted to the legislature in 2019 as to what their projected cost savings would be by AB 236, the measures within AB 236. And so that's all we're doing is calculating this 21 million out over that number of years for this hypothetical variable of $170 million of that total 640 million. This isn't about a decrease in the prison population that is currently at 10,435 as of June 30th of 2023. So I would recommend that second sentence read more along the lines about, in the context of this report, costs avoided refer to spending that may result due to hypothetical projections as to future prison population. It's not about what our current population is. So I would just strike because of the decrease in the prison population. And I would also like, under that summary in that second paragraph, it's highlighted or in bold print, the 21 million due to the enactment of AB 236 since the last statement of costs avoided. I would suggest that we put a footnote there along the lines that even though the prison population has decreased by 3,442 inmates from the 13,877 in 2018 to the 10,435 as of June 30th, 2023, since the enactment of AB 236. The budgets of the NDOC have continued to increase exponentially over each year over the last 5 years in excess of $60 million. So I think that this is very important for us to be looking at. And even I believe that we can go beyond even the statement of costs avoided. And let's look at, are there truly any cost savings associated with that? And then also look at the other aspect of that about the impact on public safety, about people that have been released from prison due to the criminal justice reforms, who have reoffended and who have re-victimized and have caused additional damage to victims and to communities for the prosecution of those offenses. So again, Justice Stiglitz, thank you for your indulgence on that. I know it was long-winded.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Brady, were you going to speak again? Your hand's up.
The only other thing I was going to say is, and I don't think it was clear from my point, is that with the growing costs that NDOC has experienced with correctional officers, with food, with fuel, I would anticipate that the savings would be exponentially more than what they're reporting, because if we still had those people in the prison, we would have had to build another prison. We would have had the increased costs still associated with all those other prisoners. So that's sort of kind of the flip side to what DA Jackson was saying. I agree that that the costs are going up, and I would be interested to know how much more those costs would be if those people were still incarcerated.
Thank you. Dr. Lanterman?
Hi, this is Jennifer Lanterman for the record. So one of the other part of the past conversation about this cost avoided issue and how we measure it has been, we are required to report this, but there's a broader, more fundamental issue here, which is whether cost savings is actually an appropriate outcome to be focused on, as opposed to the goal of reducing department corrections population where possible, where this does not compromise public safety or public health, right? Because you will reduce department corrections population in a couple of ways. One, you just reduce the number of people going in. So you've got alternative community-based supervision and programming. And then on the back end, you increase the people coming out. And you're going to do that one of two ways. Either you reduce the number of, you increase the number of people you release from the prison who are the least likely to cause serious harm to other people, right? So these are usually things like people being convicted of property crimes, drug-related crimes only that did not involve any type of violence, public order offenses, things like that. In that case, you're going to need more investment in community-based programming related to parole and probation, because those people have really a number of criminogenic needs that tend to be quite severe and are not reduced unless there's an evidence-based intervention addressing those issues, right? So you let those people out, which means the people you're keeping in prison are convicted of violent and sexual crimes. They have longer sentences. They're going to age in prison. And people who are aging in prison are aging at an accelerated rate. When they age at an accelerated rate, they are more expensive to care for. So you're going to require ADA modifications to buildings. You're going to require additional medical care. You're going to require dietary modification, require more medication, right? So they will cost more money that way. Conversely, if you decide to release the people who are the lowest risk of causing harm, it's the violent and sexual offenders, actually, which beyond the political viability point, whether or not people can actually get on board with doing that, what happens is the people you keep in prison are the highest risk of reoffending. That's the people who've been convicted of the property crimes and the drug-related crimes, and they need programming. So you need to increase programming costs beyond what is typically available to the number of people who can access that programming in Department of Corrections custody, right? They need more programming staff to actually expand the availability of evidence-based programming. So, you know, I have a real concern about that $21 million being a constant, because I don't think it's a cost-related, it's not a cost-avoided number. It's just this 170 million divided by X number of years, right? But we have to report about costs avoided, but we need to have a broader conversation about if we're going to use evidence to make these decisions, then we might very well need to be having a conversation about not costs avoided, but dollars reallocated and increased funding to do this properly if we do not want to see compromised public safety and public health.
Great, thank you, Dr. Lanterman. Other comments? Director Powers, were you able to capture Mr. Jackson's recommendations or red lines to the document?
Yes, Chair, I was. I have them all written down and I can make those edits.
Okay, why don't we maybe, if you can do something like that, we can pull up. Here's the thing. Obviously, there's a larger conversation that needs to be had there were some assumptions that went into the report because we have to do cost avoided, but they're not real dollars. So if everything's static and then correctional officers get a raise, you haven't, there's that. Or again, if it's 15,000 and you have to build a building and you don't have to build a building. I mean, some of this is always in the nether a little bit in terms of what we're trying to capture. I don't have the history with this commission or with the ACAJ, of which I was a member, I think in 2014, for about a year. And then I haven't been on it. So I'm not privy to all of the determinations that went into either the legislature or the current way in which we approach this report and the goals of the commission. But it would seem, cost avoided in terms of are we incarcerating, it's are we incarcerating the right people? And if we're incarcerating the right people, what are we doing with them? How are we keeping people from recidivating, and what is happening, with all those dollars? So in terms of Mr. Jackson and Dr. Landherman's comments, what do we think in terms of A, the report right now, and then B, having an agenda item, putting this on the agenda and having a larger discussion about how we're going to try to capture these in a way that I think reflects, both the goal of the commission and I guess maybe we have to agree on what's the goal of the commission and the spirit of what's happening right now. Mr. Wickham?
Good morning, Chair, Your Honor. Just a couple things really quick. I would like to say that I appreciate everybody's comments so far. Very good. We're taking notes as well. And I can say that, based on this being just after the legislation that was approved in July, I think there's a long way we can go with this, and we absolutely agree. We can come up with better methodologies as we test this through time, because the offenders we're losing right now are our lowest custody, and they're the cheapest to lose, and we're still retaining the higher cost offenders, which are on an average of about $90 a day per offender. But I think in the long term, we're going to take a good look at this with our economist, our system specialist, and we can look at it, and I'm sure we can find better methodologies. I think we're all on the right track, and I certainly appreciate DA Jackson's comments, and we will certainly take time to review that and see if we can come up with these better methodologies. I think this is something, and to your credit, thank you. This is something we absolutely need to look at in the future as what we can do to refine this to even better process. And I thank Georgia and the commission for all they're doing to, hold us accountable to our spending dollars and what we're doing with the state's money. So again, I just want to say thank you to everybody for their comment.
All right, thank you for those comments. And even in that, Mr. Wickham mentioned costs of $90 a day to incarcerate. So if somebody gets out tomorrow, did they just save $90? I mean, part of what we're doing is not going to be a cost avoided dollar capable, I think, of a figure in the same way in which I think Mr. Jackson, you're suggesting, but I'm not sure. I don't know. If you talk to the sheriff, they'll say it costs X dollars a day to incarcerate somebody. So if they get 10 more people, is there a bill for that much money? If 2 people get out, do they save that much money? I mean, we're looking at projections and long-term, and in terms of the projections that you showed of projecting 15,000 inmates roughly, and at this time was expected to be like 13,000, we're down 10. So did they get it wrong, or did we do better? Or is that, I don't know how to approach all those, how to harmonize all those things, but I do think it's something that should be on the agenda for us to discuss in more depth when people have all the documents in front of them, and we can do that. Any other comments at this time on the report or the intentions on what we're going to do today? Director Powers, were you able to pop that into a red line or no? You're muted, Director.
I believe some of it. Let me share my screen and we can add anything else as we go. Are you seeing the report at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So in the box, I did catch the may have expended in the future, which I believe DA Jackson talked about spending that may have been avoided because of changes in the prison population. And then I haven't been able to redline the footnote he talked about even though the decrease in 2018 projections, that I will add. I wasn't sure if the wording of the budget increasing exponentially was something we wanted to put in there or just speak about later. I can take more suggestions at this point.
Ms. Murray?
I would just like some clarification. Is the intention here to vote on the report as it was submitted to us, or to now just accept the non-moved for red lines of DA Jackson and vote on that potentially new document?
Well, I think my intention was we have a document and Mr. Jackson's proposing a couple edits. And if I wanted people to be able to see what those edits are, and then if there's a motion with the edits, we'll hear the motion. We can discuss that further. Or if somebody says, hey, I'm moving to approve the original report, that's fine too. But it's hard for me when I have to see, I like to see what the words are and where they're going. So I thought it'd just be helpful. So these are proposals that Mr. Jackson had brought forward.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't like just glossing over, abandoning where we were at and accepting what's been proposed. What you're saying makes perfect sense to me. Thank you.
All right. And so, Ms. Powers, what was the other piece that Mr. Jackson was proposing?
A footnote regarding the increase in the DOC budget. DA Jackson, would you like to speak on that?
Yes, what I was talking about is there on the summary in the second paragraph, where it reads, using the formula developed, the Nevada Sentencing Commission calculated that Nevada has avoided $21 million due to the enactment of AB 236 since the last statement of costs avoided. I was talking about putting a footnote possibly there. It could be somewhere else in the document. And what I was suggesting is to capture that even though the prison population has decreased by 3,442 inmates from 2018 through June 30th of 2023, since the enactment of AB 236, that the budgets of the Nevada Department of Corrections increased $60 million from 2018 through June 30th of 2023. And Justice Stiglitz, while she's typing that up, and I do appreciate the other comments about how to do this. As opposed to taking them all together, if as soon as Georgie gets done with this, I'd be prepared to make each one of these a motion standing on themselves. So the very first one that she had up there in that box, what are costs avoided, that would have removed the word would and replace it with the word may. I would make a motion to amend the statement of costs avoided report that has been submitted by removing the word would and replacing it with the word may, as it is shown currently in that box, what are costs avoided.
All right, there's a motion for Mr. Jackson as it relates to that information, and that's on page 1 in the box, and you see it on the screen. Is there a second to that motion? Okay.
I'll second.
Somebody said I'll second. Who said I'll second?
Thank Justice Assemblyman Hibbets.
All right, thank you, Assemblyman. We have a motion from Mr. Jackson and a second from Assemblyman Hibbets. Is there any discussion on that? All right, hearing, I can only see part of the screen, so if anybody
I have a comment.
is
Senator.
waving, yeah. Oh, thank you, Senator. Yeah, you just have to speak up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was raising my hand. I appreciate everybody's comments and taking this deep dive into this. However, Deputy Director Wickham expressed that he would like to take a look at this and get back to us. So I'm wondering if maybe we should table any kind of motion or vote today and let Deputy Director Wickham take a look at things and then get back to us before our next meeting. I'm just wondering, Deputy Director Wickham, would that be helpful to you and the Nevada Department of Corrections? Obviously, nobody wants to cut funding to NVDOC when the lights need to stay on and we need appropriate staffing and guards. That's for the safety of the guards and the prisoners. So I'm just wondering if maybe that would be helpful to you, sir.
If I could here, just quickly, this is mandated to be submitted by December 1st. So if we table and do not approve something, we will have to have another meeting prior to December 1st, just so everyone understands.
And this is Deputy Director Wickham for the record. I just want to thank Senator Krasner for your comment. And also, I appreciate the ability to have some more time because we want to work with sentencing policy on this to ensure that we're doing things correctly and efficiently and saving the state as best we can. But I also understand the necessity of getting the report done in a timely manner. I'm okay with this change from to may have. That's not a significant thing for us at this point. So I'm okay either way, whatever the commission votes. I'm not a voting member, so I will just say that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wickham. All right, in any event, is there any other comments? And again, as Senator Krasner identified, I can only see 4 of you because the screen is shared. So if you want to talk, just start talking and then you're going to rise up to the top and we'll see who you are. So is there anyone else who has any comments? All right. Hearing none and seeing none, there is a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Assemblyman Hibbets to accept the changes on the report on page 1. Let's have a vote. Ms. Powers?
Would you like a roll vote?
Yes.
Okay. Chairman Dorico,
Yes.
Aaron Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Grosnick,
Erica Roth on behalf of Ms. Grosnick. And just to confirm, this is only on the changes on page 1 that are proposed?
yes, but you won't have voting rights, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay. Ms. D.A. Jackson.
Yes, but I it's only as to the first part. I only took that very first one where it said would have and to may have, and even though we're seeing another highlighted, that was going to be my next motion, because if someone had an issue with that, I didn't bring both of those in together. This is only on changing one word so far, and they'll bring another motion to deal with the second part that's highlighted in that box.
All right.
All right. Deputy Director Jordan,
Yes.
Dr. Lanterman,
Yes.
Mr. McCormick,
Yeah.
Ms.
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Ponder,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Yamas,
Yes.
Judge Yeager,
Yes.
Assemblywoman Considine,
Yes.
Assemblyman Hibbets,
Yes.
Senator Krasner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes.
Chair Stiglich.
Yes. Okay, so that first part in this report will be changed. As to the second part in that box, is there a motion? And this is spending that
Justice-
may be avoided.
Justice Stiglitz,
Yes,
this is
sir.
DA Mark Jackson. The part that's highlighted, the second part that we see in there, that had read spending that will be unnecessary. And myself and Christine Jones Brady had both talked about the use of the word unnecessary. So I make a motion to replace will be unnecessary to may be avoided.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and it's reflected here in the highlighted on the shared screen. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Beth Schmidt.
All right, thank you, Director Schmidt. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, in light of the last round, all those in favor of accepting that, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, so that change will happen to the report. And now let's move down to the footnote that Mr. Jackson was recommending. Mr. Jackson, did you have a motion with respect to that?
I do. My motion would be to amend the draft of the statement of costs avoided for our December 2023 report to include the footnote that reads, even though the prison population has decreased by 3,442 inmates from 2018 to June 30th, 2023. Since the enactment of AB 236. The NDOC budgets have increased in this time period in excess of $60 million.
All right, thank you for your motion, Mr. Jackson, which is reflected on the screen, and that would be a footnote on page 3. Is there a second to that motion?
Aaron Evans, I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Evans. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion, further discussion on that motion?
Yes, this is Jennifer Lanchman for the record. Can we just clarify again what part of the report this is a footnote to?
Yes, for the record, Mark Jackson, District Attorney, Douglas County District Attorney. This would be a footnote in the summary on page 1.
Okay.
The second paragraph.
Okay.
And you can see, we can all see where the 21 million is in bold font.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that sentence, where it says it ends with statement of costs avoided, period, that the footnote would go there.
And I just have a quick question. Above this, it says the commission, under a statutory requirement, the commission is required to use the formula developed. So that's the formula that's already been determined and developed and submit based on that formula. Using the formula developed, so if that's what we're doing and we want to add a footnote to that, do we need to add some additional context as if we're using the formula that we are required to use, this is outside the formula, and I don't know if we need to add more context of, yes, that has been, there's been a $60 million amount that has gone up, even though our populations have gone down, but something as to, and this is something that we will be looking into, or something to contextualize that as opposed of, to just putting a number down that's outside of the formula we're required to use, and then not adding any context to that.
All right, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Christine Jones Brady for the record.
Thank you.
That was going to be my comment, is exactly what she said, is to provide a little bit of context. I don't know if we're going to say that the commission will be, or meeting with NDOC, or the sentencing policy, Office of Sentencing Policy will be meeting with NDOC to determine increased costs or the meaning or the reasons for increased costs, but some context that we're looking.
Go ahead, Vice Chair. I didn't mean to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was sort of rambling at that point. I'm not exactly sure what to say, but because I think that the increased costs have to do with increased costs associated with living, with regulations, ADA, with mental health. I mean, it has, so we can't do all that in a footnote, but if there's some succinct way we can contextualize it, I'm in agreement with
that. Okay, and I'm sorry that it kind of stutters a little bit. I'll call on you next, Miss Murray. I'll just say, I mean, we don't have to add the footnote at all. You make a motion and there's a discussion and a vote. We can have costs avoided and the budget can still go up because those are two separate things. The budget could go up 400 million if they're going to retrofit or redo a thing, and we could still have avoided a number of costs by dealing with the prison population. So to me, those are apples and oranges. So I don't know that I'd support the footnote, but that's what the discussion is. So we put it in, and as the Assemblywoman said, it may need a little context, because I think the mission here is what costs are we avoiding, not what cost necessarily is the prison choosing to incur or necessarily incurring, in other aspects of their mission. So I'm not sure. Ms. Murray.
I'm glad you went first. You largely summarized my thoughts. Yeah, I think that I just wanted to state that I will be in opposition of this footnote in its current format. I think that unnecessarily combining cost avoided with budgets is confusing. I think that it's also misleading, and I can see many ways in which that sentence would pull out and have large impact in other arenas, as though it's some sort of authority or says something more than what I think it really says. I would suggest that if that's an area that we want to explore, that prior to the 2024 report, we place on the agenda a re-exploration of the items to be covered in the report and the methodologies used to do so that we can have meaningful discussion over those things. I think that this footnote actually could wield large weight in a lot of arenas by being misunderstood. So I will be in opposition to it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Murray. Mr. Jackson. You're muted, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you so much for those comments, and I do appreciate those. I guess to add a little bit of context, the reason is twofold. One, under this particular statute, NRS 176.101347, about submitting this statement of costs avoided report, the statute does read that the formula must include, comma, without limitation, comma, a comparison of, and then it talks about the annual projections as well as the actual numbers of persons, and those are, but the issue is that what's happened based upon that ACAJ report that was submitted before the 2019 legislature is that members of the legislature are holding up those numbers and as if they are true, and they're not, and they are projections. They are based upon hypotheticals, and what I'm talking about is the 640 million and the 470 million that is referred to in paragraph 1 of our summary, and those come directly from that ACAJ report. But they're not using, the legislature is not using the word costs avoided. They're saying these are cost savings. And so if they want to hold up a document and say this is proof of the cost savings, it would be nice if we had in the document, because this all goes to Department of Corrections. That was what was reported to the legislature in that report in 2019. That was a big part of the presentation by Assemblyman Yeager, and even at the time it was Chief Justice Hardesty and CGI, that there has not been that actual cost savings. We've actually had an increase in that NDOC budget of $60 million through June 30th of 2023. So this is before the increase in salaries for the state classified employees. And again, I'm not aware of what their budget is at this time. I'm trying to do a cutoff of June 30th of 2023. So that is the basis behind my request for that. And if it's not included, it's made at least a part of this record, and I understand that I can bring those up, or we can include it in some other report. So with that, I have no other comments before we go to a vote.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson. Does anyone else have any further comments before we go to a vote?
This is Georgia Powers for the record. I just wanted to speak to Ms. Murray's point. One of the things that we've talked about previously is taking budgeting out of projections, and so that the state budget is not going to use only prison projections to decide what DOC's budget might be, what P&P's budget might be. And I think that's what Ms. Murray was saying, that if we put the budgeting wording into here, it's what we've been trying to move away from. Our department has been asked to start doing the prison projections and looking forward. And so that is one of the pieces we have really talked about, is divorcing the state budget from actual projection numbers. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Well, then we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of accepting this footnote that we've been discussing and is the subject of this motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Ms. Power, or Director Powers, we're going to turn to a roll call vote, please.
Yes. All right, regarding the footnote. Chairman Jericho,
Yes.
Deputy Chief Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Grosnick. Oh, she's not here, I apologize. DA Jackson,
Yes.
Deputy Director Jordan,
Yes.
Dr. Lanterman,
No.
Mr. McCormick,
No.
Ms. Murray,
No.
Mr. Ponder,
No.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Susie Yamas,
Yes.
Judge Yeager,
No.
Assemblywoman Considine,
No.
Assemblyman Hibbets,
Yes.
Senator Krasner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brady,
What footnote are we agreeing on? Do we have the language for the footnote, or are we just voting for a footnote in general?
it is still on the screen, I believe. Even though the prison population has decreased by 3,442 inmates from 2018 to June 30th of 2023, since the enactment of AB 236, the NDOC budgets have increased in this time period in excess of $60 million. The commission will be reviewing the formula methodology for this statement of costs avoided moving forward.
No, as it is written, not in general for a foot.
Okay. Chair Stiglich.
No. So this is a nail biter.
It's a tie, 8-8.
Tie doesn't go to the runner, so the motion fails.
Yes, motion fails.
All right, then at this time, is there further discussion on the report? And that is with the amendments that we've already approved. And if there is further discussion, we'll take that now. If there's not further discussion, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the statement of cost avoided as constituted today.
This is McCormick. Would it be appropriate to have that second part of that footnote that says this group will be re-examining that formula going forward, does that make anybody feel better, or is that just sort of unnecessary language?
This is DA Jackson. As far as I'm concerned, that second part would be unnecessary without the first part, because it was to put it in context. So thank you, though. I appreciate it.
And we are going to be discussing all these things going forward. All right, so anything further than on the statement of costs avoided? And I'd entertain a motion.
This is John McCormick. I'll move that we approve the statement of costs avoided with the edits that the commission previously approved.
All right, thank you, Mr. McCormick. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Jennifer Lanterman.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lanterman. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, thank you. These are good discussions, and we do need to address this going forward. And that's the beauty of the commission is, making it better and figuring out how we can really fine tune, both mission and execution here. All right, let's turn to item 6. I'll now open agenda item 6, announcement of the chair of the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Coordinating Council. Pursuant to NRS 176.014, the council shall advise the Sentencing Commission on matters related to any legislation, regulations, rules, budgetary changes, and all other actions needed to implement the provisions of Chapter 633, Statutes of Nevada 2019, as they relate to local governments. Identify county-level programming and treatment needs for persons involved in the criminal justice system for the purpose of reducing recidivism. Make recommendations to the Sentencing Commission regarding grants to local governments and nonprofit organizations from the State General Fund. Oversee the implementation of local grants. Create performance measures to assess the effectiveness of grants. And identify opportunities for collaboration with the Department of Health and Human Services at the state and county level for treatment services and funding. The members are appointed by each county commission, and the chair of the council is appointed by the chair of the commission. The chair of the council for the 21-23 meeting cycle has been Garrett Pruitt from Carson City. I'd like to thank him for his service. For the 23-25 meeting cycle, I would like to introduce Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Coordinating Council Chair, Denny Bird from Humboldt County. Ms. Bird, would you like to say a few words? Are you on?
Yes.
There you are.
Can you hear me? My camera and stuff's been a bit wonky this morning.
All set.
Yes, thank you for this appointment. I've been part of the council since it started and was vice chair for the last 2 years, working very closely with Mr. Pruitt. And I see a lot of good things coming from this, and I look forward to us figuring out how to help the counties with the money that's been appropriated as we go through the grant process. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And thanks for your willingness to serve. I'm very excited. All right, are there any questions with respect to that agenda item or comments? All right, Mr. Jackson.
I just want to know if I could get, or if our members could get a copy of what the total membership of that coordinating council. I'm not even sure who the representative is from Douglas County. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, absolutely. We can get a copy of the council roster to you, all of the commissioners. We will do that soon.
All right, anything further on this?
One,
Yes,
Julia Murray, sorry. Congratulations, Denny. I have had the experience of getting to sit with both former Chair Pruitt as well as former Vice Chair, now Chair Bird, on the coordinating council since day one as the Clark County representative. She has been instrumental in actually keeping the coordinating council moving, as has former Chair Pruitt. It was a little bit of a meandering loss for many, as it was tough to sort of wrangle the goals and the target deadlines and to get things together. But as you all saw at the last meeting, the application packets that have gone out, the criteria that have been set forth for those applications, it was not easy work to put together. Now Chairwoman Bird had a huge hand in that. So congratulations to you. Also, to DA Jackson, if you want to see that list immediately, it's on the Department of Sentencing Policy website. It's just one tab over from the Sentencing Commission. And every county has the ability to submit their representatives pursuant to an application process appointed by their various county commissions. And you may or may not be correct about whether or not there even is a Douglas. Participation has been a huge issue on the Coordinating Council from a number of counties. So if you haven't taken a look at it, you might want to, because you may not have a representative on it.
Oh, thank you for your comments, Ms. Murray. Any other further comments on this item? All right, we'll close that then, and we'll turn to item 7, the NDSP data report. I'll hand it over to Director Powers.
Thank you, Chair. Georgia Powers for the record. I'm actually going to hand it over to Deputy Director Bonacorsi. A lot of the newer members have not seen what data we have. She will zoom through a quick presentation. Deputy Director.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you for having me. This is Jenna Bonacorsi for the record. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all really quick. All right. If you don't see a big screen that says NDSP data presentation, please let me know. But I'm very excited to be here with you all today and to be back at the Department of Sentencing Policy. Data has always been a really big passion of mine, and there's no data that I'd rather work with than my home state of Nevada and the important field of criminal justice. So as the director previously said, we have quite a few new members this cycle, so I'll be just giving a really high-level overview of the Department of Corrections population over the last 7 years. So with that being said, we're first gonna look at the admissions, releases, and total population trends. And this data is going to be broken down by gender, felony category, and offense group based on the most serious offense on the booking the offender was serving during the respective time frame. As you can see here, the total prison population has been trending down since 2017, and from 2017 to 2023, the population has decreased by 24%. Since the population was already trending down and due to the impact of COVID-19, we cannot assume that this decrease was due to AB 236 alone. Over the last 7 years, most of the prison population has been comprised of Category A offenders, representing on average 28% of the population, and Category B offenders at 55%. The remaining 17% is comprised of 11 from Category C, 5 from Category D, and 1% from Category E offenders. Upon review of the presentation this week, there was an edit made to the title of this slide and the corresponding ones, changing the wording from felony group to offense group. The underlying data remains the same, and the slides with the edits have been uploaded to our website. Over the last 7 years, violent offenses have represented the majority of the prison population at 47%, excuse me, of the total, followed by sex offenses at 6%, property at 14%, other at 10%, drug at 8%, and DUI at 4%. As you can see in this graph, admissions had a big drop starting in early of 2020. For that reason, the rest of this section of the presentation will compare trends in admissions, grouping the 2017 and 2019 average monthly admissions versus the 2020 through 2023 average monthly admissions. The average monthly admissions between the two time periods have decreased by 26% for males and 44% for females. Category A has had little change, with an average of 22 admissions per month for 2017 to 2019 and an average of 21 admissions per month for 2020 to 2023. The average monthly admissions for Category B offenders was 242 from 2017 to 2019 and 178 for 2020 to 2023. Also, upon review of the presentation, there is an edit made to the title of this slide, as in the corresponding ones, changing the wording from Category C, D, and F to Category C, D, and E. The underlying data remains the same, and the slides with the edits have been uploaded to our website. The total admissions for all C, D, and E felonies averaged 250 a month for 2017 to 2019 and 160 a month for 2020 to 2023. The average monthly admissions for sex offense group remained fairly consistent, with an average of 20 admissions a month in 2017-2019 and 22 for 2020 through 2023. Violent offense group averaged 147 monthly admissions in 2017-2019 and 123 in 2020 through 2023. The average admissions for drug offenses were 69 a month for 2017 through 2019 and 45 for 2023, and property offenses averaged 175 and 109 respectively. The average monthly admissions for DUI and other offenses did not have a significant time change between the two time periods, as they went from 16 to 19 and 57 to 53 respectively. As you can see in the total releases, there has been a slight decrease since 2020. For that reason, for the remainder of the section, we will also be comparing the average between the time period of 2017-2019 versus the average of 2020 through 2023 for releases. Overall, the average monthly releases has decreased by 21% between the two timeframes for males and 36% for females. Category A felony releases did not experience much change at an average of 24 in 2017, 2019, and 29 in 2020 through 2023. The average for Category B felony releases was 258 in 17-19 and 217 in 2020-2023. The total releases for all categories C, D, and E felonies averaged together were 266 a month for 2017-2019 and 147 a month for 2020 through 2023. There was not a significant change in the number of offenders in the sex offense group, released with an average of 24 in 2017-2019 and 27 in 2020 through 2023. Violent offenses also did not see a drastic change, with an average of 145 to an average of 138. The drug offense group averaged 100 releases per month in 2017 through 2019 and 60 releases per month in 2020 through 2023. The property offense group averaged 197 releases and versus 123 releases in 2020 through 2023. The DUI offenses from 2017 to 2019 had an average of 20 releases per month, and from 2020 to 2023, an average of 15 per month. Other offense category average went from 63 to 56 between the two time periods. So that concludes the majority of the data portion of the presentation. I hope you all found it helpful. We tried to go through it rather quick just to give a really high-level overview. But for those of you who are new members, if you do not know and would like to dive deeper into these numbers, you can visit our website and use our interactive dashboards and look at them on your own. It's right over here under the Hub tab on sentencing.nv.gov. And we have a few different ones, and all of my data that I used in this presentation was sourced from these dashboards. So we're looking forward for Nevada Department of Sentencing Policies data. The first is a project that is actually already underway. We are updating our dashboard. So I know I just showed you guys the link to where they are right now, but we are in the process of updating them. We've gotten some requests from users that we hope will make them more helpful. The first request was the ability to see total population, admissions, and releases all on the same page and ultimately the same dashboards. It can get a bit clunky when you're shuffling through multiple dashboards to try to look at the same filtered information across the board. And another request was one that allows users to apply multiple filters at once. For example, if you want to group together category A and B together versus C, D, and E, that option will now exist in the new dashboards. But you all are who are working with the dashboards the most, and I want these to be as useful to you as possible. So if you have any other suggestions besides the ones we mentioned, please let us know, and we will be happy to try to implement them if we're able to. The second thing we have looking forward is that we hope to continue to dive deeper into NDOC and NPP data. We have a really strong relationship with both agencies that has allowed us to make some great progress. And with continued partnership, we plan to have more detailed data available for you all very soon. Lastly, we have a few data reports that have come due to this last legislative session that we wanted to highlight. The first being that we will be working with Las Vegas Metro to help broaden our understanding of the impact of the changes to temporary revocations from AB 32. Also, as the subcommittee on misdemeanors gets up and running, we will begin to receive and analyze data regarding misdemeanors in Nevada. And I know we all are really excited to learn more about that as a whole. Finally, we are working with the Attorney General's office to gather past data for the report on murders and voluntary manslaughter. And we are beginning to develop new procedures for collecting this data moving forward. So those are a few of the projects our team at NDSP is currently working on in regards to data. I want to thank you all for your time and open this up if you have any questions.
Thank you for that report. That was excellent. Anyone have any questions on this? I do encourage new members, play around on the website, and with it's neat. And with the data that you can pull and compare is just amazing. And certainly it gets better when we get input. So see what works and see what doesn't or what you think could be better. All right, with that, we will then, hearing no questions or comments, we'll turn then to agenda item number 8, the dates for the meetings for the rest of the year, which are provided in the agenda. Our next meeting is December 15th, and then we'll meet on January 2024. Those 2 meetings will be virtual. Our staff's already working on more topics and items for discussion at future meetings. From this meeting, I think we've generated some items that we'll be putting on the agenda. Does anyone have anything at this time that they want to be considered for a future meeting? All right. Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Chair Brady.
I'd like to add reentry to the agenda, a discussion on reentry if we could, and maybe I know that there used to be under Governor Sandoval a reentry task force, and I don't know if who's doing that now or if we're supposed to be doing that as a sentencing commission. So I'd like to add that, please.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. We'll get that on. Anything else? Oh, Vice Chair, do you still have your hand up or no? Okay. Hearing anything else, if inspiration strikes after the meeting or anything else comes to mind that you'd like to be considered for the agenda, please contact myself or Director Powers, and we'll make sure we get that on the agenda and have the people that we need to have a meaningful discussion about it. All right, then we'll turn to item 9, public comment. I'll now open the second period of public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Just as we did during the first period, those who wish to testify may do so by telephone. Those public comments are going to be limited to 2 minutes. Hunter, I do see that we have, I might ask staff to manage and direct those who wish to testify. It appears we do have some public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public who would like to testify by phone, press star 9 to raise your hand. When it's your turn to speak, please slowly state and spell your first and last name. Caller with the last 3 digits, 037, please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. Caller with the last 3 digits, 037, please slowly state and spell your first and last name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. You may now begin.
Thank you. Tanya Brown, TONJABROWN, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. I just want to touch on what I mentioned previously regarding the recommendations we were asking for. We'd like to also make it retroactively. Thank you on that. Now, for some of you don't know who I am and why I became an advocate, so I just kind of want to do a brief introduction of who I am and why I became an advocate. My brother was wrongfully convicted for a crime back in 1988. Over the years, through my own investigation and so on and so forth, I uncovered what happened in this case. And I will just say that, just to make it short, in 2009, the Honorable Judge Brent Adams issued a order for the Washoe County District Attorney Dick Gammack, to turn over the entire file in my brother's case. When the file was turned over, the handwritten notes of the prosecutor showing he defied a court order back from 1988 to turn over all the evidence. What was found in the file were the handwritten notes of the prosecutor. Not only that, there was evidence that showed that would have discredited the state's witnesses. And through my own investigation, like I said, there was another suspect they knew about, they hid it. And I actually found this other suspect in 2011. He had information that only the perpetrator, the district attorney, and the officers involved in the case would know. Now, back in 2018, the Washoe County District Attorney's representative during the ACAJ mentioned that they had a conviction integrity committee. I applied for that in 2018. I received a letter from them, and basically what they did was they go online, they look at
You've
previous
reached 2 minutes. Please wrap it up.
Okay, I will. Thank you very much. Basically, an innocent man spent time in prison. The real perpetrator was found 2 years after his death, and I became an advocate, advocating for justice because of that. And so thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Do we have any other callers or any other public comment?
No, we do not, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then that'll conclude our second period of public comment. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for adjourning on short notice, or I'm sorry, convening on short notice this time. Thank you for all your thoughtful comments and your input here, and of course, your willingness to serve. Thank the staff, members of the commission. I look forward to seeing you in December. I'm sorry, we're going to be in December to continue our efforts. Any thoughts you have in between, we're just getting started. And if there's anything, I don't know how to say it other than say any big ideas that we have for this commission or things that we want to tackle, we need to get started on them. So bring your thoughts, bring your ideas about how we can make it better. And with that, we will adjourn. Be kind and be kind to yourselves. See you at the next meeting. Be well.